Haptic is an extension to Turbo Intruder that expands the versatility of it to give us some familiar capabilities that we would have with the standard intruder. In particular, Haptic was designed to have the different attack types that are available through Intruder, such as Sniper, Cluster Bomb, and so on, and give us an interface to utilize those and specify them with different payload position indicators within our Turbo Intruder interface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy a very simple example script for a haptic attack into the Python editor that we have here, and let's step through how this works. So first we import our Haptic library, and then we need to define this test logic class that extends transform that we're going to use to define our payloads. And here we can use a number of different iterators. In this case, we're just using the apply iteration and indicating that we want it to do this 50 times. So it's going to go through this logic 50 times and create for us 50 different payloads that we're going to use. Here we define our test case function. This is a specific naming convention that is required because we want to correspond these test cases to a specific payload position. So we require the test and then the underscore in this name. And then what follows is how we define our payload position, which I'll show you how that lines up with actually inserting payload positions into our HTTP request. So this function provides us some objects to work with, but we're just going to look at data in this example. So data is the base data that is coming in from our payload position. And in this attack, very simply, I'm just appending to the data the iteration that we are currently going through for the test case. So as we iterate through these 50 test cases, this state object will tell us which iteration we're in, and it will append that number to the data here. And then we're returning the data. And of course, I could have copied this right into the return itself, but I've decided to break it out because we might want that in future test cases. Secondarily, we have our queue requests, which is familiar from the standard Turbo Intruder. The difference now, the engine, of course, the request engine we're still defining, but the difference now is that we're using a test factory that we're creating based on our test logic class here. And essentially, we are just looping through those and adding those to the engine queue. Finally, we have our response handling to determine which responses are interesting to put in our table. And in this case, I haven't seeded that with anything, but I think it'll still just work fine in this simple test case. Normally, you would define some test cases to say, hey, if responses look anything like this, then don't include them in our in our cases that are flagged and included in the table. But in this case, I'm not doing that. We're not really interested in any responses. We're running just a very simple proof of concept here. So now we need to go back to our actual request and remove this classic payload position specifier that is used for Turbo Intruder, and we need to use the custom syntax for Haptic Intruder. So what we're going to do is run a very simple sniper attack, which is denoted by the plus symbol here. And I have to specify which test cases we're inputting in this location. And I'm going to say H1, which is what we've defined here, test underscore H1. These are the test cases we'd like to use in this situation. And then I close this off with another square bracket. And then where would I like this payload position to end? I would like it to end at the end of this value here. And I use the plus symbol again, and then I type in end. So what this is specifying is our data location. So when we take this data here to mutate for our test cases, that's coming from what is specified between these payload positions here. Which I just moved a character around there. And so what we should see in our attack is it should be taking this this data that we have in here, which is just this basic email address, and adding a number to it that denotes which iteration we are going through. So when I click attack, that's exactly what we should see. And if I scroll through the results here, it is what we see here. You can see that we have our payload here, which consists of that email address with a number appended to it. And of course, this isn't a very interesting attack, but it has hopefully illustrated how we can set up very simple attacks with Haptic that provides a little bit different of an interface compared to Turbo Intruder. And in subsequent videos, I'll show you why this can be so useful compared to the standard vanilla Turbo Intruder.